Hey, this is Brian Crecente, news editor at Polygon.com, and I'm joined today by Eric Hirshberg, CEO of Activision Publishing.
Yes, sir.
And we are talking about the new Skylanders.
Skylanders Trap Team.
Right, and so this is a game this will be the fourth Skylanders?
Fourth installment, yeah. There was Skylanders Spires Adventure, followed by Skylanders Giants. Last year we did Skylanders Swap Force,
right.
And this year's game is called Trap Team, Skylanders Trap Team.
And every iteration has had some sort of new thing you've brought to the table. Swap Force, Giants, they were bigger. Swap Force, you could switch.
Giants also had Light Core, which I
right.
think gets overlooked as an innovation, but pretty cool. It drew energy from the digital world and somehow lit up the toys in a, no batteries, no wires, So yeah, each time we've tried to create what we call those wow moments for kids, and we think we think that the Skylanders business is built on making kids say wow.
Right.
And so yeah, we've not just rested on our laurels and added new characters, but we've always tried to continue to blur the lines between the digital world and the physical world.
So this one, the wow, is going to probably be tied to this.
Yeah.
Which is a trap.
A trap.
Made out of traptanium?
Traptanium.
Traptanium. So basically the idea is you can trap.
So you've always been able to, you've always encountered all these villains that have tremendous personalities and different powers in the world of Skylands. But in this game, in addition to defeating them, you can also pull them out of the digital world. There's a special portal where this trap can be put in, and literally you can pull a character out of the game into the physical world, and then once he's in there and he's yours. So you can set him aside, and when the time's right, if you need his powers, you can actually put him back in the portal, unleash him back into Skylands, but now he's fighting for you. Now you're in control, so it's kind of capturing evil and unleashing good.
Now this franchise, the Skylanders franchise, has been massively successful for you guys.
Yeah, it's done well.
You were going over some of the numbers earlier. It's $2 billion?
It was the fastest third-party game to ever cross the $2 billion threshold, and in 3 years, it's become one of the 20 biggest video game franchises ever. And I think the other thing that's remarkable is how these are so relevant as toys themselves.
Right.
You would think that they would just be relevant kind of in the game world, but in fact, if you just were to judge Skylanders simply as an action figure line, without the game, the toys themselves would be the #1 action figure line in the world, and it would actually outsell the top 3 combined.
So do you guys, obviously one would think this is something you're going to stick to. You're going to be making these for a while, I would assume.
Let's hope.
Right now, I think it seems that the success is tied to 2 things. You've got these characters that players have really grown to love, and they're identifiable, and you keep bringing out new ones. You have 175, I think, right now.
Yep.
Always supported moving forward. The other thing, though, is the technology, which is, I think, really interesting. We did a story about Toys for Bob, the developers, about the fact that RFID readers, you guys are, I guess, the biggest, you provide more of those to people than anybody else in the world.
Well, I think that one of the things we've done well with this franchise is used existing technology in very clever new ways. Obviously, we didn't invent the RFID chip, but this kind of two-way communication between the digital world and the physical world is something that we, kind of brought to another level with Skylanders. And there's a lot of tinkering and a lot of creativity that's been involved in making these breakthroughs. And I remember seeing the very early Skylanders were literally had RFID chips duct taped to the bottom of action figures, and so it literally starts like that. It's a tinkering studio, and same with Vicarious Visions, and it's cool because I think that as creative people we all have those instincts, and it's been something where we've been able to bring the worlds of play together from the physical world and the digital world.
So do you guys? First, let me is Toys for Bob, I know they're making this game.
Yeah.
They made the first...
We made the first 2.
The first 2, okay.
They did.
Are they the ones who sort of are right now the keepers of Skylanders? Do you feel like they're the ones who are going to be innovating on Skylanders moving forward?
One of the things we've been able to do well as a company is find different developer teams that are able to work and innovate on the same franchise. We've done that successfully with Call of Duty.
Right.
And I think that it was maybe born out of necessity at the beginning because the games took longer than a year to develop, and yet there seemed to be demand for an annual release. But it has a lot of hidden benefits, and I think that what you get is both a healthy competition and a healthy collaboration between very different groups of creative people. So you bring different teams who have natural different skill sets, strengths, points of view, and they're going to bring different flavors to the franchise, and that's going to help keep the franchise fresh. And I talked at the event about not being merely iterative, but trying to really truly innovate in each and every time. And I think having different groups who are highly independent and highly creative in their own right, working on the same brand, actually helps the brand stay more relevant.
So when you talk about not wanting to be iterative and sort of kind of make these big steps, there must be, I'm assuming, within the company discussion of perhaps using this technology outside of Skylanders, or are you guys like, no, we only want to stick to Skylanders?
One of the things Activision's done very well is focus on a few, very meaningful worlds and franchises and opportunities. And I think that I get that question all the time. I think people underestimate just how rich and deep these worlds can be. And you needn't look any further than every other category in popular culture to see that. You look at the publishing industry, you see Harry Potter novels, one after another becomes the biggest book, ever released. Movies with Star Wars and Marvel and, different franchises that Twilight, that take over the movie business. And I think games are no different. And people have shown a real appetite that they invest in the characters and the worlds that they love. And it's on us to keep those worlds fresh enough and vast enough and deep enough that they're worth coming back to over and over again. But so far we've been very focused on Skylanders. So I won't say never, but I also will say that finding a world like Skylanders that's that compelling is a rare thing. And so I think that we've got something that we want to make sure we keep fresh and innovative.
One of the things I wonder about, this has only been around for 3 years, 4 years, so I don't think you've gotten to that point yet, but imagine in 5 years, 10 years, if this franchise is still going, you're going to have children who grew up playing this game.
Who now have nostalgia for it.
Right, yeah. But also maybe they want a more adult experience. Is that something you guys have thought about? Like, okay, we have Skylanders. I know lots of adults like this game, but is there a way to maybe take this experience and offer sort of a level for, people who've grown up playing it or for adults?
I think there's first of all, that would be a super high class problem, and I hope that we have it. I think there's sort of an age ceiling on collecting toys. And that doesn't mean that there aren't, high-end toy collectors who collect toys into their adult life. It's just that the market gets more and more specialized. Whereas in the kids market, it's widespread. That's what kids do. So, in terms of aging up the franchise into, adulthood, I think there are probably, other games we would transition them to. But I think that, if you start to look at the portfolio that Activision has, by the end of this year with the games we're releasing, you're going to have Skylanders, you're going to have Destiny, you're going to have Call of Duty. So I do think that there is this kind of, something for everyone, that we're building in the portfolio.
I was talking about this before, the embarrassing mistake I made of saying when this was first announced, I thought it was a really neat idea, but I was like, these are not toys. I have now an almost 13-year-old. And these are not toys where you can move their limbs around. And I was like, there's no way the kids are going to play with this. I was 150% wrong, obviously.
You weren't alone.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask. Was there some doubt? Were you guys like, no, you need to have hinges? You need to have a way for them to be manipulated?
Of course, we looked at that, and that adds complexity, it adds breakability, it adds expense. There's a whole bunch of things. But what we found was that that the imagination kind of takes over. That these toys are imbued with life, and I think that. That's the key to the franchise. I mean, I think this is DNA level stuff. From the first time a kid picked up a stick and pretended it was a sword, we've always pretended that our toys were alive and were real. And so the fact that there's such a compelling way that the toy comes to life, I think gets kind of grafted onto the object itself. But it's not like Skylanders is the only toyland in the world that, is kind of in that maquette, collectible form. And it's something that we made the toys incredibly high quality, beautiful materials, incredible level of detail in the paint, and the characters themselves are just so compelling and have so much personality that I think that carries the day.
And then you have, we were talking about this a little before we started, but the crystals. It's obviously sort of an open question right now. Are kids going to use that like they do these guys, or what is your expectation?
My expectation, I mean, look, I hope that they play with them the same way they play. As a father, I've watched my kids, and I've had the same experience you have, where it's like they play with these toys outside the game as much as they play with them inside the game.
Right,
they're
right.
always in the backpack, and they're always in the backseat of the car, and they're always with them wherever they go. And what happens in the game world kind of fuels their imagination in the physical world, which I'm of course super pleased with.
Right.
The traps, I think, will have a little bit of a different life because they're not themselves characters, although we've tried to design them in a way where they're imbued with characters. So they have personality, they have distinctiveness, but at the end of the day, they're a trap. And what they do is they're a vessel. They hold characters that you pull out of the game. So if I had to predict, I would say people will probably use these more in the game world than perhaps they do with the characters themselves. But I think they'll have a tremendous attachment to them because there's a bad guy in there.
Right.
And you saw in the video we showed with the kids, who were the first to test it out. They're literally, like, is he in there? I can't see him. Like the imagination is so vivid. So
right.
I think that they'll be really cool.
So why do you think I think you guys only have really right now one competitor in terms of the idea of basically, toys.
I think there are more coming.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. That's a lot of money you're making, and I'm sure you'll do fine with competitors as well. But you have the field to yourself right now, almost.
Well, look, I think with something that has succeeded on the level that Skylanders has commercially, competition was only a matter of time. It was a foregone conclusion. And so, we have competition in every category that we make games in. Competition is nothing new. In fact, the new thing was having the category to ourselves for a little while. That was an anomaly for a spell with Skylanders because we invented the category. So, to me, the best defense is the same good offense that got us here, meaning if we can continually deliver these wow innovations that just make the eyes pop out of kids' heads, then we'll continue to do well.
And so I sort of was dancing up to this point, but I have to just ask bluntly.
Okay.
Call of Duty, you don't think you'll ever have like little Call of Duty figures in a... I mean, come on. I just see two mammoth franchises and it's like...
Call of Skylanders.
Yes, Call of Skylanders.
No plans for that as of yet, but very creative idea.
Thank you. I always come up with the worst ones to ask people about. All right, I think that's it. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, and good luck.
Good to talk to you as always, Brian.
Thanks. Take care.